All right, y'all. I would love to play a little bit with the pacing of movement today. If you've been around here, you know I tend to focus a lot on how we're moving in and out of poses or how we're doing dynamic movements. And I find that to be really helpful, especially when we're working on improving our movement patterns, reducing pain, changing how we feel moving about in the world. I find working with movement is a really effective way in. So we're going to be playing with a little dynamic movement today. We'll be working with the movement that I call butterfly. You might be familiar with the static posture, reclined cobbler's pose, or bound angle, or Supta Baddha Konasana. And this is the dynamic or flowing version of that. And I'd like to play a little bit with some cues about how fast you're moving, because when we change the pace of our movement, we change the input that our tissues are getting and how they're having to work together. And we're also changing things up for our nervous systems, for your brain, and the connection between your brain and your muscles and all that's going on in that realm. So it can be quite interesting. I hope you'll play with me. If you'd like to, we're going to start lying down. If you prefer not to lie on the floor for any reason, you can do the same movement on a bed, but you want to make sure you have a little bit of space to either side of you. You're going to start by finding a position that feels comfortable. If you have been taught to step the feet really close to your sitting bones, if you're willing, you might try taking them a little further away. We still want to feel stable and grounded and supported through the feet, but if possible, it's helpful to get a sense of space and ease around the knees, the hips, the low back here. And we'll take just some nice, easy breaths to see if you can feel your body settling into the support of the ground or the furniture beneath you. Seeing where you can relax and receive the support of the ground, and where maybe you still need to work in order to be here. And then the essential movement of butterfly is this. I'm going to keep my feet where they are. My feet have a little space between them. And what I'm not going to do for this dynamic movement is slide my feet in towards each other. I am going to allow my feet to tip onto the edge and back up onto the sole of the foot in order to follow the movement of my hips. But I'm really going to think about all the movement that we're doing coming here from the movement of the thigh bone in the hip socket. The simplest way to think of this movement is that the knees are going to come away from each other out to the side. And it's like opening up the wings of a butterfly. Your legs and your feet are going to follow the movement. So you may tip onto the outer edges of your feet if you have enough movement in your hips to do so. And then you're just going to come back up. So notice I'm not sliding my feet. I'm just tipping onto the edges of the feet. I'm moving from my hips, bringing the knees wide, bringing the knees back up. And then you might play with just letting that movement be a little faster. So we're not looking to race here. This is not a springboard dynamic movement like a jump would be. It's not forceful. But let the movement be a little on the faster side to where you can still really pay attention to what's happening. So maybe thinking a little bit more of the wings of the butterfly opening and closing. And notice what you feel. Is your back flattening into the ground? Are you feeling engagement or strain through the abdomen or the low back? What else is going on? And then when you're ready, come back onto the soles of the feet. Let everything relax. Okay. So we're moving in a range always that's comfortable. Moving at a pace that's comfortable. Just checking in with what happens at that tempo. Now we're going to slow that movement down. So especially if the faster pace is closer to your natural pace, you're going to focus here on really letting this movement slow down so that you're needing to control the movement all the way through. Don't be surprised if this feels a little harder than when you went faster. Slowing the movement down often does make it a little more challenging. So finding a slower movement, still moving onto the edges of the feet as needed to let the legs follow the movement of the hips. And then come back onto the soles of the feet. Let your body relax. Notice what you feel. The last movement that we'll do here is super, super slow. So if you haven't done this before, listen all the way through the instructions to make sure you know what to do. Okay, we're going to let your breath just be relaxed and easy and natural. We're going to use your breath to time the movement. So we're going to count 5 full breaths. That's inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2. 5 full breaths to take the knees out to the sides. And 15, that's 1 5 breaths, 15 full breaths to bring the knees back up. The actual number is not super important. The idea is you're going to move a lot more slowly than you would otherwise be inclined to do if I just said to you move slowly like we did a minute ago, right? So when you're ready, you're going to notice your own breath flowing, and you're going to count 5 full breaths coming out to the sides. And then when you're ready, 15 full breaths to come back up to center. If you were to do 13 or 18, it would be absolutely no problem. Okay. Now, if you start to get a lot of shaking as you do this, that is not uncommon as we start to slow the movement down. And it can be a little disconcerting, so it feels a bit like you're possessed. If you're able to just let the shaking happen if it wants to happen, continue to move slowly, continue to count, getting your brain and your muscles to sync up at this slow pace. And it's worth mentioning you don't have to do a lot of these super slow movements. So you may find that you do one and you feel pretty done. I wouldn't do more than, maybe 5 or so of them. It's really not necessary to do a whole lot of repetitions. And you may very well find that your body has a big response to moving this slowly. So we want to go easy. Really paying attention to when you need to rest, and if you want to rest before I do, finding a position that feels really comfortable for that resting spot. So everyone is probably going at their own pace as they're doing this practice. So if you're feeling done, rest in whatever position feels good to you. If you feel like you could do one more of these at this time, you'll do one more cycle, 5 full breaths coming out to the sides, 15 full breaths coming up to center. And then go ahead and rest once you're complete. So resting could be legs extended. It could be that starting position with knees bent. It could be with a blanket under the knees. Maybe you want to sit up or roll onto the side. There's no rules here. So you're finding a position that feels comfortable and supportive and restful for you. And then I do recommend, after doing these super slow movements, that you take some time to rest and observe. These can be really powerful. So if you were to jump up and go about your day, you might notice that you feel a little funny. You might have some fatigue. You might feel like your coordination has changed up, or the position of your hips or your legs has changed up a little bit. So I recommend going slowly with this, right? Finding your rest position, whatever that looks like when you're ready. Taking some time here to relax your body and observe the sensations, right? How does your body respond to this change in tempo from how you might normally do this movement, if this is a movement you normally do? Feel free to rest longer than we're going to rest for the purposes of this video. Taking your time. When you're ready to come up, you might roll to one side to press up, or you might come up a different way. And take your time coming upright. Maybe coming to seated, maybe making your way up to standing, and just being mindful as you move, right? Of how you feel having done this practice of slowing down, right? What did you notice at each tempo? And remember, these are not the three be all and end all tempos of movement. There are many ways you can do the pacing of this movement, a butterfly, or any other movement you want to explore. I hope this has been interesting and useful, and that you find lots of ways to experiment with this and discover new things about movement in your own body. If you have questions or experiences to share, I'd love to hear them in the comments. And I hope you continue to explore pacing as you do different movements in your yoga practice or outside of your yoga practice for that matter. Take really good care.